Good evening, everyone. We want to start the night by announcing that we hit 20,000 members today, and we are so excited. So thank you all for joining us. And on to more exciting news. We are super thrilled for our book club discussion tonight, featuring New York Times instant bestseller, The Summer of Songbirds, by one of our favorite people, Kristy, Woodson, Harvey. So we're not going to keep you guys waiting because we know why you're here. I'm Lisa Harrison, and I'm here with my beautiful co-host, Brenda. And you want to go ahead and introduce
Yes, and we're ready to talk
about guest.
We're ready to talk about Camp Holly Springs.
Yes.
With Kristy Woodson Harvey and the Summer of Songbirds. But I would like to introduce her. Kristy Woodson Harvey is the New York Times, USA Today, and Publishers Weekly best-selling author of 10 novels, including Under the Southern Sky, the Peachtree Bluff series, The Wedding Veil, and our read for tonight, The Summer of Songbirds. Her Peachtree Bluff series is currently in development with NBC, with Kristy as co-writer and co-executive producer. Oh, can't wait for that. She's winner of the Lucy Bramlett Patterson Award for Excellence in Creative Writing, a finalist for the Southern Book Prize, and her books have received numerous accolades, including Southern Living's Most Anticipated Beach Reads, Entertainment Weekly's Spring Reading Picks, and Katie Couric's Most Anticipated Reads. So with that, welcome, Kristy.
Woohoo! She's so smart.
Can you see me? Am I here?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
And KWH.
I'm loving our visors. First of all, very first, you guys, cheers to you. 20,000 members with my orange spindrift here. I mean, that's unbelievable. So cheers to you guys.
I'm virtually cheersing. I don't have a drink. For once,
cheers.
I don't have a drink.
So cheers.
See, I was going to say something, but
I beat you to it.
You did. Oh my goodness. Well, all right. Well, you can tell we're all excited to be here. But Kristy, I know. Yes.
I just want to say, I feel like we haven't seen you in a while, and like we've missed you. I feel like this is a reunion. Like we missed you.
I know. I mean, it has been a while. It really has. I mean, I haven't seen you guys since Charleston, right?
Yeah.
For me, it's been Charleston. Yeah.
That's a long
it's
time,
crazy.
ladies.
It seems like it's a long time.
I know.
And since Charleston, you've had this amazing novel come out that we're talking about tonight. And I just have to say, it was just so touching, Kristy, that the exploration that you did of friendship and family, found or otherwise, because family is both. Southern Living says it's equal parts moving and nostalgic. Kristy Woodson Harvey's latest novel is a story of 4 friends who unite to save a summer camp and find out much more about friendship, love, and their own lives in the process. I love that quote. It just summarizes how the feeling I got from the book. And Kristy, welcome. We'll get into questions for the book club discussion in a moment, but could you give a summary for those here who haven't read your book yet? And we'll do spoilers after 7:15.
Okay, perfect. Yes, so I'll just give you my quick little elevator pitch, but so The Summer of Songbirds is about 3 best friends, Daphne, Lanier, and Mary Stewart, who meet when they are the 8-year-old songbirds at Camp Holly Springs. And they've been doing each other's hard things, which is something that you read about in the book ever since. And so the summer where this book starts, they are facing a hard thing together that they never really imagined, because Daphne's Aunt June owns Camp Holly Springs, and they all, love her like family. And she reveals that she's sort of been holding this camp together with prayers and duct tape, and that she's going to have to sell it. And so they are all devastated that this place that they love, that has meant so much to them, is going to be gone. And so they decide to band together and try to save it. And then, of course, along the way, they come into contact with old flames and old feelings, because it's a summer book, so we got to have a little summer romance, right? But in the
Oh,
meantime,
we'll be talking about that.
yeah, in the
Mhm.
meantime, Daphne realizes that there's one hard thing that she's going to have to face all on her own this summer. And that is when she finds out that her best friend Lanier's fiance is doing something illegal. And he has not told her. And so she has to decide whether she's going to tell her best friend and possibly get disbarred, or if she's going to let her walk down the aisle and marry this man, not knowing this big thing about him. But Lanier has a secret too, that not even Daphne knows, that affects Daphne in a big way. And when she finds out, it sort of blows up everything. So, I love a good secret. But I've been saying this is my love letter to the people and places who make us who we are. And I think that's really what it is. I mean, I think if you went to summer camp, I think you'll, think, oh yeah, that reminds me of my camp memories, but that wasn't really the point. I just want people to be able to read this book and not necessarily think about camp, but think about that moment in their lives where the world was just kind of out there waiting for them to grab it. And that time where just everything feels possible and the world feels kind of limitless.
I loved this book so much. And
Me too.
since you mentioned it, from the very beginning when I started reading it, I loved the idea of the hard things. Like, how did you come up with this? Is this something that you've done? Or where did that come from?
Okay, well, so for people who haven't read the book, the hard things, so these three best friends send each other like emails every week, and they all kind of rely on each other's like strengths and weaknesses to do things for each other that like one of them finds really easy and one of them finds really hard. And I got the idea, just my husband and I were talking about something one day. Oh, you have on your Songbirds shirt. I love it.
To hold it up.
We're just talking about, how there are just things that like, I don't love confrontation, but like there are people in my life who do, they love it. They're like, yeah, bring it on. And I'm like, oh, wouldn't it be so great if like that person could do that for me? Or like, I could do this for that person because they're really struggling. And I think that would be really easy. And we were like, man, that'd be really cool if life worked that way, which I mean, it can, I guess, sometimes to an extent, but like for the most part, although sometimes like this is really stupid, but even if I have to like send like a difficult email, like I'll write it, but just to like have him press send on it, it's really helpful. Like I can't do it. But I don't know. I just like the idea of kind of expanding that thought of like, what would it be like if you had people to do your hard things for you? And I like that they, sort of rely on each other. And I also think just in a very like practical, writery kind of way, it gives this book this like touch point that we can continue to go back to, which as a reader, I really like. And as a writer, I really like. I like that touch point. It's the Luke's Diner and Gilmore Girls, it's like whatever's going on, they're going to be at Luke's for breakfast. It's like whatever's going on, that hard things email is coming and it's kind of going to anchor the day. So yeah.
I love that. I want to start doing that with my friends. Maybe me and Brenda will start doing that too.
I was just going to say, I think we should implement that plan. So the camp is obviously central to the book. So I wanted to ask our book club members, if any of you went to summer camp when you were young, if you'd like to share in the chat. And we had a couple of questions from our members about that. I know in the acknowledgments, Kristy shares the inspiration for Camp Holly Springs came from the time she spent at Camp Seafarers Family Camp in North Carolina. But Brenda Gaskell asked if you could share some memories from summer camp.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I actually went to Camp Hollymont in North Carolina, which is so it was Camp Hollymont, and then the brother camp was Camp Rockmont. So that's kind of where, but I wanted the setting to be like on the river, like Seafarer and Seagull are. So I was like, okay, well, how can I kind of like give a nod to my summer camp, but to Rock Springs and Holly Springs were born. And actually my next book, one of the kids is going to Camp Rock Springs. Just thought I'd let y'all know, but you don't really see it, but I was like, oh, he's going to Rock Springs. I'm such a nerd. Anyway. But yeah, I mean, I think overarchingly, like the funny thing when I look back at camp is, you spend so much of your time like learning new things and doing all these like really cool activities that you don't get to do at home. But I think the times that I really remember and the things that I kind of cherish the most about camp are like when you were just in your, your room or your cabin or whatever with these girls who a lot of times you had never met, you didn't know, or maybe you just knew from camp, and you were getting to know them and you were learning things about them. And you just form these bonds with these girls that you never would have met otherwise. And it's kind of like a lifelong thing because you have this shared experience that, you can always kind of look back on. And so I think for me, really like the most fun was, the friendships that we made, but it was so funny just to go back and look. I mean, I have like every letter I ever got at camp, which is so funny. And it's, especially as I got older, it's really funny to look at like, I'd totally forgotten about this, but when I would go to camp when I was older, my friends would keep these little notebooks where they would like write notes. And if they would go to a party or something, everyone that was at the party had to write me a note to tell me what I'd missed, like stuff like that. That's so funny, which obviously wasn't while I was at camp, but I just loved like the idea of that. But I was going back and looking at photos and letters and all of these things. And one of the photos that I came across, my best friend from camp and I were wearing these shirts that said MOP on them. And I was like, I could not like remember. I mean, I just kept thinking it's going to come to me. It's going to come to me. And I remembered making the shirts. I remembered the puff paint. I remembered us all like laughing and like thinking it was so fun. And so finally I called her and I was like, do you have any idea why we were wearing shirts that said MOP on them? And she was like, yeah, because we were the makeout patrol of the dance. And I was like, oh my gosh, the makeout patrol. That's so funny. But so there were just like little things like that came back to me when I was writing this book that I was like, oh, this is so, it's great. And this is how, your subconscious works. So I started writing this book. A lot of times this is kind of my process. I get really excited about something and I just dive in and I start writing it. And I go back and kind of do the research to put the pieces together later. Like I'll leave gaps where I need to research things. And so I knew I wanted to call this book The Summer of Songbirds. And I knew the youngest campers at camp were going to be called the Songbirds. And so I'd probably already written like, I don't know, a third of the book or something. And I went back and was on the Camp Hollymont Instagram page. And I realized that all of the cabins are named after birds. And like, I didn't consciously remember it at the time, but I'm like somewhere in my subconscious.
Oh, wow.
Like, and they don't have a songbird cabin. Like the youngest is there's like hummingbirds and blue jays and, on and on. But
Wow.
yeah, so it's really hummingbirds there. But I was like, oh my gosh, that's really funny that like, I'm sure my subconscious was working on that somewhere.
That's so cool. Well, I do have a couple of comments from the question. Rhonda says she loved going back to summer camp at her age. LOL. It brought back a lot of memories. I'm sorry, it just went away. Brenda says my summer camp experience definitely taught me that I could do hard things.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Debbie says teamwork is the dream work. And Cindy said she had a camp counselor that they called Cupcake.
That's hilarious. I
Love it. Love it.
Susie loved
So
the Luke's Diner reference too. I wanted to point that out.
Oh, that's
the first thing that popped into my head. So that shows you where my mind is. Wait, you guys, I'm sorry, tangent, but I got to meet Lauren Graham at East Hampton Authors Night. I got to meet Lauren. I know.
And Misty Copeland, my lifelong.
Yes.
Yeah.
She was
so talk about that too.
So amazing. Sorry, that's like off topic, but I just had to insert that because I was like, this is so cool. And normally I'm really prepared when I'm going to events like that. Like I know who's going to be there and and this one, like I was just coming off of tour and everything was so busy and it was summer and I hadn't even really looked. And like 2 days before the event, I went on and was like, oh, who's going to be there? And I was like, oh my gosh. And she was like at my table. I was like, what? Shouldn't she be like behind glass somewhere or something? Like they're just letting her out here with the normal people, both of them. Anyway. Okay, back to the book. I'm sorry. Tangent over.
Hilarious. No, I wanted to ask you about that and Misty Copeland, but I was like, well, if we have time at the end, we'll get to that because that's pretty awesome. So I was very jealous of your photos. Okay, back to the issue.
okay. Well, we want to get into some of the details of the Summer Songbirds, although I feel like we could talk about camp for the whole hour, but we are just zipping along. We'd like to, we have a book club member who's coming on to ask you a question, and Nicole is on her way in.
Oh, Nicole of the amazing t-shirts. Why am I not wearing my t-shirts?
Yes.
What's wrong with me?
She made these t-shirts.
It was so
Hey,
cute.
Nicole.
Hi. I love that we all have on our Camp KWH visors. Oh
I know.
my gosh, I can't
This is
believe
the
I'm not wearing my
perfect-
t-shirt. That was such a miss. Love it.
Yes.
Hi, Nicole.
Thanks
Hey,
for coming on.
What? Sorry.
I said, thanks for
We were just
coming
saying-
on.
Thanks for coming
my
on.
pleasure. I'm so excited.
Yes, and you have a question for Kristy.
I
That's
do.
pretty interesting.
Yep. And it's kind of got two parts to it. So which of the three women between Daphne, Lanier, and Mary Stewart did you relate to the most? And then which one was the hardest to write about, like her perspective?
Okay, that's a really good question. I love that question. Thank you for that. And thank you for the Songbirds t-shirts. I love them so much. So I have to tell everybody, so Nicole came to Tampa and she had these amazing Songbirds t-shirts made for lots of, fun friends and fiction readers. So thank you for that. That was such a great surprise.
You're
And she
amazing.
got one for me too. So I love it. Okay. But so the hardest for me was definitely Daphne. Are we doing spoilers yet?
Yes, it is
We have reached the
7:17.
spoiler.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Then I'm gonna do some spoilers. So the hardest for me was Daphne because I have a hard time. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. Like, I think as a writer, sometimes I have a hard time writing the parts that we have a hard time reading. Like, I have a really hard time writing people who just continue to sabotage themselves. But I think that's real. So, like, I think it's something that someone like Daphne, because of her wounds, because of what she's been through, because of her past, would have to have a lot of control in her life to be able to just function on a daily basis, take care of her son, go to work, do the things. So for her to feel like her relationship with Huff was, kind of damaging that in some way, or maybe making it so that all of that can fall apart, including her relationship with Lanier, who, is her person. I mean, that is her person. She doesn't have a mom. I mean, she has Aunt June, but they have a fractured relationship for a lot of reasons. Like, Lanier is her only person who has never let her down. So, for her to have to think about sacrificing Lanier for Huff is just a really, really big thing. But at the same time, those types of things are really difficult for me to write. Like, I want to yell at her, like, just tell him why you're doing this, and then this will all go away. Because I'm a real explainer. Like, if I'm going to do something, I am telling you why, and I am telling you the backstory. And I respect people who cannot do that, because she's not telling him because she doesn't want to hurt his relationship with his sister. So anyway, but she was hard for me to write, like, for a lot of reasons, but mostly because I feel like she's kind of a self-sabotager. But also I'm like, I know it's going to be okay in the end. So anyway, but that's always hard for me. And then the easiest, I mean, Lanier was hard too, because she, like, definitely makes some bad choices that are, like, kind of immature. But also, I think, again, like, realistic. Like, I think it would be great if at 30 we all made perfect decisions, but we don't. So not that that's, like, super young. I'm just saying, at 38, we don't all make 45, at 62, we don't all make perfect decisions. So,
Right.
and I think her jealousy is, like, very real. So that was, tough too. But Mary Stewart was super easy to write, just because she was, she's the peacemaker. And I think when there are three, there's always a peacemaker, and there's always the person who's trying to, like, fix everything and solve everything. But I did feel like this was a situation where she kind of had to take sides. And, I write a lot about sisters. I think that's a little bit of a different relationship. This was a slightly different thing. I think there's a line that you can cross with your sister that you can't cross with your best friend. And coming back from that is, like, a little bit more difficult. And so that's something that I sort of wanted to explore. But yeah, Daphne was definitely the hardest. Mary Stewart the easiest? Great question.
Thank you.
I love that.
Loved the
Yeah.
book. I loved all of them.
Oh,
Nicole, I've got
thank
to
you.
point out, I'm sorry, I'm having a moment. Is that our official merch behind you?
It came in today. So,
Got it already?
We haven't seen it yet.
oh my God.
Book sleeve.
The book sleeve
And the toe, oh, it looks so good. I can't wait to get mine.
stickers. Now, yeah, it came
Gosh.
today, so I was so excited. I was like, oh, I gotta put it out. And then I've got my fanny pack. And
I saw
everything's
the Camp KWH fanny pack right
That's
away.
I love the fanny
Yay.
pack too. Okay, very
Yeah,
cool.
oh, I like the fanny pack too.
Yeah, I love it. And I
Thanks
love
so much.
bigger.
So cute.
Oh yeah, that's cool. I like your typewriter too.
It's a Lego. It's a Lego typewriter.
It is.
What?
What? It looks real.
Yeah,
Look
I know.
His face.
That is so cool.
That is adorable.
That's my other hobby.
We're gonna start doing like what's on your bookshelf.
Yeah.
when
I
we
know,
have it.
right?
It's very cool.
We can find out fascinating things. Well, Nicole, thank you so much for joining us tonight and for your
Yes.
questions.
Having me. Have a great night. Thanks.
Nicole, you too.
Thank you.
Bye. All right, we are continuing our book club parade with another book club member, Debbie Stone, who had some questions herself about your characters in Summer of Songbirds. Debbie, welcome.
I gotta get my video.
Yay!
Okay. I did create the Kristy Woodson Harvey display going on.
This
here.
is fabulous. Love
Oh
it.
my
Shelf
gosh.
envy.
I'm so excited. This has been, I've been counting down since day 100.
I was getting ready to say when you popped on, I was gonna be like, Debbie is the countdown queen. No, and every day, Debbie, my mom and I would be like, your graphics are just so
Yes.
darn good. I mean, it's really
Yes, they are.
unbelievable. You have a real gift.
Well, a several gift is just a good method of searching and then putting it together. But thank you. My mother would be proud to be hearing this. She'd probably hearing it forever because she spent so much time putting me in a graphics art. My handwriting was horrible. I wanted to be a teacher. And in my counseling appointment and going into high school, she cried because I had such bad handwriting that she was like, what's good? She never gonna teach anyone. No one can read or write. La, la, la. And they put me in a calligraphy class and a graphic arts class. And then I got into yearbook and paste ups and graphic arts with ads and whatnot. And that was like my position was taking all my friends to all the hot spots that were advertising in the yearbook and planting us in like the restaurants and whatnot, and it was cool because I went to a really like frou-frou high school. I went to Beverly Hills High. And so we'd go to like so all those spots. And we pose in like the restaurants, with a drink that we couldn't have because we were 16.
Well, it
Gosh.
definitely paid off with your
Well,
graphics.
thank you.
So,
Well,
I
thank you.
know.
what's your question for Kristy?
Okay, are we ready? Yeah, let's get focused
Yes.
here. Okay, so I went through and I listened to and watched, I think, almost every interview you did to see if I could find the answer to this before asking it, because I didn't want to be repetitive. But I couldn't, because you always said the answer is a spoiler alert and you wouldn't do it till you did a spoiler alert chat.
Okay.
So here we are.
Yeah.
I want to know what surprised you the most about the characters from the starting of your writing to the publishing,
Okay.
and what it was that that you changed that was a significant change that for us to know.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So there were several things. I think one of them I have already maybe mentioned somewhere, but in the first draft, Aunt June had a love story that I really liked. But my editor just felt like it was like a little too cluttered. Like it's almost to the point that I'm like, I feel like I need to write a Songbirds sequel so I can like give Aunt June her love story.
Yeah. I'm feeling it.
And
We
I
would
don't know,
love that.
I loved that part, but I do, I did sort of feel like maybe she was right that 3 love stories was kind of a lot. Daphne. Oh, this was the major one. Okay. Isn't this funny how you like forget stuff and then it comes back to you? Okay. So the major one was that I had Stephen make this kind of like grand confession of love to Daphne after she breaks up with Huff. And she has this kind of moment of like, maybe my life would just be easier. Like maybe this is the easier path. Like maybe this is what was meant to be all along. I can't be with Huff. Maybe I should be with Stephen. And she never she doesn't actually get together with him and then break his heart, because that would have been awful. But she does have this moment of like, I think it was a convincing misdirect where the reader could have been like, well, maybe she is going to end up with him. And like, maybe you were okay about it. I mean, it wouldn't have been like 100%, but I think, you could see he's so cute and like such a good dad. And there's so many things about him that would have really made that work. So I thought it was like a convincing misdirect, but again, maybe just something that we didn't really need. So I ended up taking that out, and I didn't want it to come across that she was like being callous in her relationships, even though again, she never is like, it added a layer of complication to her story of like having to kind of then like soothe his feelings and all of that, like after the fact. And as y'all know, there's a lot happening in this book.
Yeah.
So I had to pare some things down, but I'm trying to think if there's anything else like big like that I changed. I don't think so. I think those are like the 2 biggest things. But anyway, that is a really, really good question. And I'm so glad that you asked me, because I have been dying to say that about Stephen and Daphne. And also, I think Lisa is one of the people that said this, but I could be wrong. But a lot of people keep saying to me, we need Stephen to like reappear in another book. And like, he needs to be like the hero of your next novel. And I'm like, oh my God, he totally does. I mean, I know he's not in the next one because it's already done. And I know, well, I don't know that he's not in the next one. I'm writing that one down. But anyway,
I have to say the chat is blowing up about the sequel, and I'm sorry it went by so fast, but someone said even a novella if you don't do a full book.
That would be fun.
We'll
too.
just place our orders now.
Yeah, everybody's
I need more June. Yeah. She's just such a grounded, I agree. I loved her so much.
I would like more of her too. But again, I have this idea in my head, and they're always like, you don't have like a word count limit, but I just always have this idea in my head of like I don't want them to be so long that you're like, it really would have been better if you'd cut 100 pages out of there. So I try to like pare them down a little sometimes, but I love June. And so while we're ordering things, why don't we just order a Summer of Songbirds TV show? And then I'll write a sequel that could be a part of the TV show, and we'll just have a whole, right?
That could go on in the summertime while Peachtree goes on during the regular season.
Let's hashtag it.
Right.
Songbirds movie now, just like Santa Suit movie now. Or no, TV. Songbirds TV.
Streaming Songbirds. I'm good. We'll just
streaming. Well, we're bad at the streamers right now because of the strike. But
I know, but they're all on strike right
when
now.
the strike is over, we want Songbirds
I feel like
TV
some
now.
of our authors, maybe they just need to just take over the TV studios, just write it and just call it a day.
That's right.
Sounds like a plan.
We're just going to read more books. If they're not going to put good TV shows on, we're just going to have to read more books.
You have to read more books.
That's my goodness.
Perfect.
Well, yeah.
Thank you for joining us tonight, Debbie.
Thank you, Debbie.
Oh, thank you.
I loved seeing you.
I love seeing you. This is the closest we've been.
I know. And thank you again for all of your support. It meant a lot to me.
I'm back for the next one.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Debbie. Bye-bye.
Bye. So Kristy, there is one thing that I want to say that I typically bring up to you on and off camera. But I have to say, you are really good at writing a book boyfriend, girl, because Huff is a great. So I want to ask you, ladies, who's your favorite Kristy Woodson Harvey book boyfriend? I cannot talk today. And let us know in the chat, because there's a lot. I mean, Coffee Kyle, he was hot in my head. He
That's
was
a good
super hot.
one.
And we have, if you like a more seasoned, we have Jack.
He was a good
But
one.
Huff is just he's stepped up for me. I like Huff.
I like Huff too. My editor said Rich is her favorite. I have
Mm.
yeah,
Hmm.
I'm interested to know who people. I love Parker from Under the Southern Sky too.
Yes. See, he was my
Parker.
favorite until Huff.
Mm-hmm.
Huff just stepped up the game there. Let's see
Yeah,
what
He
people
sure
I
say.
love a
did.
good book boyfriend, but I will say Rich and Huff like really could kind of take the cake for two of my favorites.
Yeah.
I felt like
You know,
maybe
it's
like the romance is definitely always like a part of the books, right? But I feel like in this one, maybe it was like even a little bit more than usual. So maybe we got to see a little more Rich and Huff than we do of.
Yeah.
I don't know though. I
Well,
can't be sure about that.
while people are putting their book boyfriends, Irene would like to know if you are in the writers union.
I am a WGA member. Yes, I am. Because I wrote the pilot to Peachtree Bluff and all of that. So yes. And I, completely, I don't feel like I am qualified to really discuss. I mean, I don't know the ins and outs or anything like that. I am
Yeah.
definitely in touch with, friends who are, writers and actors and whatever who are really,
Yeah.
really struggling through this. It's very
Yeah.
difficult for all of them. I mean, I think, a lot of people are taking second jobs and to try
Mhm.
to get through this, but it's a big deal. And I hope that they can come to an agreement really, really soon.
Yeah. And just so, because a lot of people aren't clear, that does not affect you writing your books.
No, it does not affect writing books. It just affects writing TV. So,
Yeah.
will not
I
be.
just wanted to
That's-
put that out there so you guys
Yes.
can breathe.
Yes.
We still
yes.
have more books coming.
Yes, we can still write books. It's a whole different thing. And WGA kind of covers like the film and TV side of things, but not the.
Oh, good
Okay.
question. I did want to. Oh, go ahead, Lisa.
I was just going to read some of the boyfriends. Maria likes
please.
Huff.
Okay.
Irene says Jack.
Oh,
And Meredith said Lisa is stumbling today because she's still on a love hangover from meeting Ryan yesterday. Thanks for calling me out, Meredith. I couldn't stop
That
in the
is
middle
hilarious.
of a comment.
that's hilarious.
Lori says Parker.
Aw.
Lisette says Jack. Dawn Parker.
I think
Let's
we need a
see.
poll on the
Okay,
page
I
after
want
tonight.
to, okay,
Yeah.
I want you guys, this is Brenda and Lisa, or everybody can vote on this too. I want to know, because I know the answer to this easily. Who you think I get the most emails about? What book boyfriend I get the most emails from?
Ooh, that's a good one. Mary said to Meredith, she wants Ryan Peavy to play Huff.
I love it. Ryan, we're here for this. Let's make this happen.
I'm on board, especially after yesterday. I'm 100% on board. He can play anybody he wants.
Oh my goodness. I think
Nicole
we are
says
getting
she
a
wants
little.
to date them all.
Nicole, I like that answer. That's really
And
good.
Coffee Kyle. We have some Coffee Kyles. Okay, so
And can I?
go ahead, Brenda, because they're starting to
Oh,
come
I was just
in.
going to say, and can I say, as those are continuing to come in, is Rich McNabb not just the most perfect camp director name you've ever heard?
Oh my gosh. Yes. I loved it. Kristy, you are so amazing. You have everything about your writing is just, warms my heart.
Well, you're sweet. Well, thank you. Well, I'll have to say 2 of my friends helped me come up with Rich McNabb's name while we were stranded on a sailboat. So we did a little break.
Well, they did well.
So, okay, Coffee Kyle is getting a lot of people think Coffee
Yeah.
Kyle
He
is
was
the
a good
one.
And he was based on someone real in Beaufort, and then he moved away. He wasn't really a barista, but his name was really Kyle.
Literally, it's pretty much unanimous. Every single one says Coffee Kyle, and then there's a couple of, you guys leave me alone about Ryan in the chat. There, Coffee
I
Kyle.
found Jack very compelling myself.
I liked Jack, but since
So-
I like a younger man in real life, I typically.
This is what surprised me.
Yeah,
is
but
Jack is the one that I get the most emails about. And even from like my friends my age, when people would talk about like casting Peachtree Bluff, everyone was like, but who's going to be Jack? But who's going to be Jack? It made me laugh because I'm like, he's, like our sort of older love interest, but it wasn't, I mean, obviously people were interested in who was going to be Coffee Kyle, but they were not as interested in like Kyle or Adam or Mark or, any of the other men as they were Jack. So I was like,
Wow,
is funny.
you nailed it, Brenda.
love a
All
man
right, I
with
called
staying
it.
power. Jack is it.
And the
A
rest
true
of us
gentleman.
were wrong.
Oh my goodness. Well,
And sorry, we had a couple in the chat asking
no,
where
go
coffee.
ahead,
For
because
those
we're going to
that
turn.
haven't read Under the Under the Southern Sky.
She's still shaking up.
For those who have not read Under the Southern Sky, that is where. Wait a minute, no, that's not right.
The Peachtree Bluff series, slightly south of
The
Simple,
Peachtree Bluff series is where
Secret of
Coffee
Southern
Kyle
Charm.
is.
Southern's Out of Paradise.
Yes, that series. So that you can find him in all of those wonderful books. I'm still stuck on Parker, so.
Well, I hate to turn it to a more serious discussion, but
Please do.
we did have an events question from Rika that I think is really interesting because Daphne was such an intriguing character in this book, and she wanted to know Daphne's story growing up with an addicted mom and eventually battling addiction herself was so well done. How did you decide this was going to be Daphne's story?
Thank you, Rika. I think I don't know that I did. And it was actually something that, talking about things that kind of come in later drafts, I knew that I wanted her to have lost her mom at some point. And I think that element of surprise was kind of important in there too. Because I think she's at a point where like maybe deep down she knows her mom's not in a great place, but she's kind of trying to like deny it a little bit. But I think, when you've dealt with that for a long time, it's probably always in the back of your mind, but it wasn't. I think she thought things were really good. You know what? That's something else that was in the original draft. Her stepfather was in the original draft of this book. Oh, his name was Mac. I loved him. He was adorable. And he was kind of, a real like rock for Daphne, but I think it also took away a little bit of, the Daphne and Lanier storyline. And again, just things that I was like thinning out of the book, but actually Daphne's own, I really wanted, when I got done with the first draft, I sort of thought, okay, I think it's understandable that when you're like a teenager or you're in your 20s, you don't really want your friend to date your brother. Like that's a thing. I mean, like my husband has a sister that's 3 years younger, and they had this pact that like they were never allowed to date each other's friends because it's weird for everyone. Like it's not what you want. Or maybe you do, I don't know. But then I thought when she's older and, she kind of feels like I wanted her to have a reason that she was a little bit worried about Daphne being with Huff. And I think, if Daphne had these struggles, I think that would be in the back of Lanier's mind. Like she saw them together. She saw how Huff enabled Daphne. She saw how, that he made that situation a lot worse for her. And so that was then a reason that she could kind of pinpoint or at least justify in her adult life that she didn't want them together, because if God forbid that ever happened again, it ended really badly the first time, and she didn't want that to happen again for either one of them. So, in a roundabout way, she is trying. I think she comes from a good place. I think she's trying to protect Daphne, and I think she's trying to protect Huff because they did have a certain level of toxicity together, during that time.
Yeah.
And I liked the symmetry of it, but also one of the things that going into this book I was really interested in was how our parents and the way that we're parented kind of affect us as we grow up. And you see that, you see Paula, Lanier and Huff's mom, and how, she has these certain ideas about things, especially her relationship to what it's okay to tell the truth about and what it's okay to not tell the truth about. And that definitely kind of trickles down and really, colors Lanier's life experiences. And then I wanted Daphne to have been super affected by her mother's addiction, obviously, but to be able to be at a point in her life where she realizes that she can make a different, I don't know, I hate to say a different choice because I definitely think that's an illness, but where she is able to get past something, even though she's afraid that she won't be able to because of her mother. So anyway, I appreciate that comment, but yeah, it was, one of my favorite parts of the book actually was to kind of see how that does affect every moment of Daphne's life and existence, but how she's able to kind of break free from that fear and really be able to come out the other side and realize that, I think Aunt June is the one that says to her, I can't guarantee you that the rest of your life is going to be great. I can't guarantee you that you never have a bad moment again, but I can guarantee you there are a lot of people who are going to be there for you if you do. And I think that was really the message that I wanted, to kind of people to kind of walk away from is, it is an illness that people struggle with always. And I don't think it's going to be gone for Daphne, but at least, she does have this huge support system that's really there for her to bolster her along the way. And her mother didn't have that. And I think that's a big difference between the two of them.
Absolutely. And in the end, Lanier is there for her. But I struggled with Lanier too, because, I guess our last book club members put in the chat, did you think the Lanier's concerns were warranted about her brother, or was she just being super overprotective? I know the one sort of drop the mic moment for me was when we found out in the book why Lanier was so overprotective that Daphne had nearly killed them in a car accident. And I was like, oh, that was kind of a game changer for me. I was like, okay, well, I feel a lot more sympathetic with Lanier now, even though Daphne had been through all of that and had come out the other side. Yeah.
And I think it's tough to watch someone you care about, just one person you care about, in a relationship that you don't think is good for them. So loving both of the people and then being together, it's like it's like a higher level of pressure that you normally, I can't imagine that, because I've seen some of my friends or people that I love in relationships that I think are train wrecks. And I can't imagine, I really think you tackled that really well in the book.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Well, I wanted her to kind of have her reasons and to sort of have that moment of okay. And, it was a complicated relationship to write, because I hope that you feel through this book, even in that moment where they're trying to save camp and, everyone's talking about why they want to save Holly Springs, and Lanier really just wants to save Holly Springs for Daphne. She doesn't, she wants Holly Springs to be there, of course, but she's saving it because it's important to Daphne. And so I think she is a really loyal friend to her. But I also think if we're just being really honest, and no matter how much you love your friend, you probably love your brother more. And to watch him go through something that not only could have killed him, but also could have ruined his career, that he had worked so hard for. And knowing that he was really complicit in that decision, and he was way too smart for that, watching him make those bad decisions and watching her make those bad decisions and seeing how they spiraled. So yeah, I wanted them to be complicated. I didn't want it to be I love everyone and it's so great. And those are fun to write too, but they're not quite as interesting.
Well, we have some responses. So Stephanie says, I think Lanier was a bit jealous, but I honestly think her heart wanted to protect all.
Totally. She was totally jealous. Yeah. She was totally jealous. Let me be really clear. Like I think at her very core of her person, she wanted everyone to be happy, but also like she was jealous. She was in a bad relationship. She kind of always felt like Huff and Daphne belonged together, and it was sort of her fault that they weren't together. And she was just straight up jealous. Yes, for sure. So yes.
Rhonda says it's a no-win situation usually. And then Susie agrees with you and said it would be so boring to read it if it was all unicorns and rainbows.
We love each other. Let's skip into Camp Holly Springs while we save it, holding hands.
Everything is perfect.
Everything's
And
great.
sing the camp song.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not real too. I mean, if you've been friends with people since you're, 5 or 6 years old, like you're going to have some conflict. That's just reality.
Yeah.
I mean, if you love each other on a really deep level, like if you're friends, then no, you don't have to have any conflict, but there's just no way that you're going to be friends for 25 years and never have a moment where you don't. I mean, I do think it's different when it's friends that you've known your whole life. Cause again, I mean, I think you can say things to them that you can't say to your other friends because you know that you can repair that or you'll come back from it or whatever. But I mean, I've definitely been in that situation where I've had to say things to a friend that I never would have said to someone that I'd only known, 5 or 10 years, but that you have to be like, you were making a bad decision. And that's a really hard conversation to have with someone.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always go well, but hopefully you're close enough that you end up stronger for it.
Very, very true.
I know. And that kind of brings me to another question. And it's not kind of in the main circle, but June is a very interesting character in this book because she has her own issues that she's struggling with and mistakes she's made. And in the book, she tells Daphne, I don't trust myself enough to take risks, so I stay at camp all year instead of interacting with friends in town. I just think that's really interesting that she exposes herself after all that time to those ideas.
Yeah.
And I just wondered how you developed June.
Yeah. So June to me was definitely a character who, had used camp to just hide from all the really hard parts of her life and had just used it as an excuse to keep herself from living because she just had a lot of guilt about some decisions that she thought that she should have saved her sister. She knows that she should have adopted her niece after her mother died, or she should have at least fought for custody of her, or whatever it was, whether and she probably would have gotten it. So I think she carries a lot of guilt, but I also think there's like an awareness on Daphne's part that we see that June did the best that she was capable of doing at the time, because goodness gracious, like talk about a woman with a lot of and I'm starting to get a headache.
I know.
Let's come on.
Talk about a woman with like a lot of, tragedy and scars in her life. I mean, and I think that made sense for her, like to go back to that one place where she felt safe and happy in her life and to use it. I think that was something that I wanted to do at the camp too, is while yes, camp is the best part of these women's lives and it does represent, sunshine and roses, it also represents a little something bigger and deeper and maybe darker too, that it is the place that they have gone to hide from the things in their lives that were difficult. And so I wanted to see that with her. And I think her character arc and the fact that she is able to finally sort of be like, okay, I am going to live my life. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to be brave, is because I think she finally makes amends with Daphne. She finally says the thing that she needs to say and is forgiven for it really easily in a way that she hasn't expected. And I don't know how common that is, but I do think that sometimes we can Lanier does it too. Sometimes I think we can spend a lot of time making something bigger in our own mind than it is to the other person. And of course it was a really big thing, but I think Daphne as an adult and she understands. As a 13-year-old, she probably didn't understand, but as a 30-year-old, a single mother, she understands where June was coming from. But I think the other thing is that June really realizes that she has people, and not just Daphne Lanier and Mary Stewart, but that when she was at a place where she thought she was going to lose what meant the most to her, all of these people came together to be like, no, you changed my life. This camp changed my life. We're going to come together to save it. And so I think just that knowledge and ability to see that all of those people were in her corner changes her in a really big way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the place that she hid from the world too, the threat of losing it is what jostled her out. And it was just amazing. Like I really identified with June's plight.
Thank you. Yeah, I do think when you're faced with losing what you love, it does change you and it makes you think about things in a different way. And I think, there at some point it gives you that realization too of like, I'm not going to get another life. Like this is the one I've got, and I've got to kind of make the most of it. And I think the fact that, Daphne needs her, I mean, I think that is a push for her too, because Daphne needs her. She needs her basically.
She does. And that leads me to a comment that I love. Stephanie says, I love how Daphne understood the heart of June. And Mary said June needed someone to do her hard things.
Exactly right. She absolutely did. She absolutely did. And I think the fact that so many people did her hard things humbled her in a really big way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really awesome. I hadn't thought of it quite that way before. Cool.
Maybe I hadn't either. We should have done this first.
Whenever you need us, we're here.
Yeah, before you went on a book tour. Well, no, you can't really talk freely about the book on book tour.
That's true. It is. It's hard to, because I couldn't, right. That's exactly right. And that's the bad thing about being on tours. There's so many things that you want to say that are like much more interesting than what you are saying, but you can't because people haven't read the book.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
One quick question from the chat. Brenda says, I found it interesting. Mary Stewart was always called by both names. Is Stewart her middle name or her last name?
So it's just a double name. So
we're in the South.
Yeah, exactly. We're in the South, double names. So why can't I think of another one? Like I have a friend who's Ann Rollins and that's her name, but she's Ann Rollins Johnson. And so Mary Stewart does have a last name.
And
I can't remember what it is, but she does have one.
Another name question. Sharon says, is Lanier a common name in the South? Because she's never heard that name before.
Okay, so this is so funny. Okay, so it's funny for a lot of reasons. One, it's funny because so MKA and I, when Daphne's name was originally Ivy, and Mary Kay had a book come out at the same time, whatever, I was writing this book with a protagonist named Ivy. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And then the Homewreckers came out and she had a Lanier. And I was like, I'm not changing another. I can't change two names in this book. It's like too much. They're my two. I can't change two of my main characters. It's like very untethering when you've written about someone for a year and then you change their name. It's like, you don't know who they are anymore. It's like I was like, okay, I just can't do it again. I can't. No, I don't think it's that common. I do know a couple of Laniers, but this was so funny. So I was in New York doing an event and I was in a theater and someone said, I don't know if it was someone in the audience or if it was the moderator. I think it was the moderator who said she'd never heard the name Lanier. And someone raised their hand and was like, my name is Lanier. And she was like, but are you from here? And they were like, no, I'm from, North Carolina or whatever. And I was like, okay, well, there you go. So I don't know. It must be, I wouldn't say it's super common, but it's definitely a name that I've heard before. But I do definitely think after being on tour that it must be a strictly pretty Southern name.
Okay. There you go, guys.
Yeah.
That wraps up the name questions that they've been wondering about.
Awesome. That's awesome. That's good.
Oh, well, speaking of wrapping up, I hate to even bring this up, but
oh my gosh,
it is almost time. It has flown by.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
We had about 3 times as many questions to ask, so maybe we'll be able to
Sorry, guys.
get them done later, but we didn't want you to leave without finding out, what projects you have coming up.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I'm so excited. It's really hard to believe because it's not that far. I mean, it's almost September and I have a book coming out in April. So it's called Last Summer on Sunset Lane. And I'm not great at talking about it yet, but I'll tell you a little bit. It's set in real Beaufort, which is the first time I've ever done that before. So that was really, really fun. Partly in the modern day and then partly from 1935 to 1976. So we have our modern day protagonist is Keaton, and she finds out, she knows that her grandparents died suddenly in some sort of accident. She sort of heard about it her entire life, but what she doesn't know is that her mother and her uncle never sold their childhood home. So this house has been sitting here for 50 years, and they finally decided that they're ready to let it go, but they're not ready to go and pack up their parents' lives. They just don't think they can do it. And so Keaton goes to Beaufort with her dog Salt, who's basically the best character in the book, and decides to clean out this house in Beaufort. And when she gets there, she, of course, starts to make friends and meet this incredible group of women named the Dock House Dames, who have coffee every morning at the Dock House.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Who knew her
I love it too.
And so they start to piece together she starts to piece together all of these parts of her grandparents' history. And as she's cleaning out the house and as she's getting to know people around town and hearing more about her grandparents, she starts to suspect that the stories that she's been told about them her whole life aren't true. And so at the same time, we are seeing Rebecca St. James, who is Keaton's grandmother, and we're watching her story unfold from 1935 to that fateful night in 1976, and finding out what actually happened to her. So,
ooh,
I'm really excited.
Love it.
Yes, and she's known
That's
for
quite the teaser.
Salt has a character too. I love that Salt's the dog.
Salt's the dog.
Is Salt going to be on the cover?
Girlfriends? Does he have any little doggy girlfriends?
Oh, he should have a doggy girlfriend. I wish I'd written him in a doggy girlfriend. That would be so great. In real life, he has a doggy girlfriend named Phoebe. He loves her. It's one of our friends' dogs. She's so cute. And it's really funny because I can say do you want to go see Phoebe? And he gets so excited. And you can say to Phoebe, do you want to go see Salt? And she perks up and looks around for him.
Oh.
But then when they're together, she plays very hard to get. She's very
I love it.
Enough tangenting for me for the night.
The chat is blowing up and everyone they're super excited, but one question a couple times coming through. Okay. When can we pre-order?
It's available now. It's ready to go. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Right after you get off of here.
Right after you get off this chat, you can pre-order. Yes.
Yeah, we have a couple people.
So I think MKA and I are the only two that will have a book coming out in 24. So we will do a fun little pre-order package to I believe we're going to do it with Oxford Exchange, but we'll have that ready shortly. We're getting through her September release and then we'll, announce all of those details.
Yes.
Yeah, but can't wait. I have to say, y'all, you should not, I don't know if I don't think I always say this, but this is my favorite book I've ever written. I love this book so much. And I can't tell you why, because it's a spoiler. So I'll tell you in 9 months from now, but there's a piece of this
in our next book club session.
Yeah, right. There's a piece of this story that's based on something that actually happened in my family. And it's a story that I grew up kind of hearing bits and pieces of. And then I just had this bizarre, light bulb moment about it one day when my grandmother said something and I was like, oh my gosh, that's a book. So anyway, yeah.
Can you repeat the title, please?
Yes, it's called Last Summer on Sunset Lane.
There you go, guys.
More S's, y'all. More S's. I was y'all, we can't have any more S titles. We can't have any more S titles. And here we are, Last Summer on Sunset Lane. But it kind of is a metaphor. So
I love it. I can't wait.
All right, ladies. Y'all are the very best. 20,000 members strong. I love y'all. Thank you for having me and for always being so great. Cheers to you.
Oh, thank you so much, Kristy. Cheers. Thank you for being on tonight and for such a wonderful book.
Well, thank you. Y'all are the greatest. Thanks to everybody for reading and for chatting with us and for
Okay, let's do it.
all of your love and support. Y'all mean the world to me. You really do, to all of us. I mean, you really do. It's unbelievable. It really is. So thank you.
Thank you. We're so
Night.
glad you were here tonight. We miss
Night,
you.
Kristy. Thanks so much.
See you soon.
We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh,
I love her.
I know.
salt.
And seriously,
Salt is in her next book.
I know. Isn't that so cute as my dog scratches at my door? trying to- Oh my
Ah.
goodness. It's so funny because we never know exactly. I mean, we have an idea of where we're going and talking about the book, but it always goes to unexpected places and really
Yeah.
interesting places.
For
That was just
sure.
a super discussion. I
No.
could have done another
We
hour.
could do a part 2. Maybe we can try to convince her to.
So
Well, we're in the after show, and yeah, thank you guys for putting up with me because I've been stumbling and bumbling all night long. I mean,
we know
I couldn't formulate words. So it's like, what is wrong with me? Losing my mind. But it's live. And if anyone's gonna mess up or lose their mind or accidentally say a curse word,
Oh, Lisa.
we're in the after show. We can say what we want.
That's true. That's true.
Um,
But go ahead, Lisa. I
I
thought
was going to say before I fall off, well, we have a lot of people chatting still. Thank you for staying
good.
with us.
Excellent.
And thank you, Shanna. She said I did great. She didn't notice. And
You did do
Edie,
great.
thank you guys.
We were
And
just
for
giving
those
you a
that
hard
saw my
time.
picture with Ryan, thank you for calling me out. It was a moment. It was very nice. But one thing we wanted to do tonight, because if you missed our happy hour on Friday night, we did announce the rest of the year of our events and dates. So we wanted to do a quick reminder of those. And I think Brenda's going to do them and I'm going to play Vanna. So
I'll do
let's
that. And
start
also
us started.
they were posted on our page yesterday also.
Mhm.
So if you want to look it up, but here comes the lineup. September
Ooh.
18th, we'll be discussing Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I love that cover.
Me too.
September 28th, we have a Zibby Books preview party that we are really excited about with 3 Zibby Books authors. And October 16th, our book club pick for October is The Followers by Brady Godfrey. That's going to be
Isn't that a beautiful book?
It is. It's a wonderful book and it's very different for our October pick.
And it comes out August 29th. So go ahead and pick up a copy of it.
Yes, absolutely. Our Friendsgiving is November 16th at 7:30 p.m. And then we usher in the holiday season on November 20th with Mary Kay Andrews' Bright Lights, Big Christmas. I can't wait to read that one.
I know. I'm trying to wait. I've been staring at. I've heard everyone that I know who's read it is just they love it. Like I've heard the best reviews about it, so I'm super excited. You can't go
The
wrong
trailer
with
is
MKA.
wonderful too. And then we have a happy hour November 30th with our favorite librarian, Ron Block. And then our December pick, we'll be talking about December 18th with Lisa Unger. Very different Christmas reads, Christmas present.
It might be a little bad Santa Christmas, a little thrillery Christmas.
So that is our upcoming lineup. We are so excited about it. It just I just can't wait.
I know. I can't believe Lisa Unger is coming on and Abby Jimenez. Some of these authors, I still pinch myself. And here we are, 20,000 members, you
Mhm.
know, and we did a little live about 30 minutes before book club started, just announcing that we hit 20,000 and we thanked everyone. But in case you didn't see it, we do want to thank the Fab Four and Ron and Meg and Anissa and all of you for everything that you do and for being here with us. So keep
And for
up with
being just a
us.
fabulous, just for being a fabulous community. And just as long as we're saying thank you, thanks to Debbie Stone and Nicole Fincher for being our guest book club members, asking their questions tonight.
Yes, that
We
was
just
so
have
much fun.
the best folks, she
We
said in her
do.
most southern twang.
Hey, at least you didn't say chicken grease.
I realized that
We
was so
show up
funny.
and we show out.
And
That's
we have
what we
chicken
do.
grease.
And that's you. And thank you to all the members that are starting to post their merch. Apparently, people are starting to get it, which is exciting. So keep posting it. And you may have an opportunity later on for those of you that missed the opportunity to order merch, we might open it back up again for a little bit. So we'll keep you posted. I think that's all for me, unless I start
I
tripping
think
over my
that's,
words some more.
no, I think that's a wrap, except for your
That's a wrap. Good night. 20,000 members. We love you. PB&J out.
that's what I was waiting for. Bye-bye.
Good night.